This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
5 o'clock segment, usually the top 5 at 5, brought to you by my friends at Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Minneapolis City Council is back in the news. There's, I guess, some angst over the fact that Jeremiah Ellison right now happens to be living in Boston, and he got sounds like very impressive fellowship.
I know, it sounds awesome.
As a Harvard School of Design fellow.
Love it. Now,
you'd say, God bless you, man. It's a great opportunity.
Sure is.
Have at it. You can never stop going to school, the whole bit. But the fatal flaw, of course, the sticky wicket is that he's also a member of the city council. Now, he's saying you guys are making too much of this nonsense.
Come on.
I can be on a TV or, virtual every meeting. I can be in on it. What's the big deal here? So what do we make of this particular story?
This is shocking. Just because you say this is okay doesn't make it okay.
Is there anything legally stopping him?
Well, again, what I consider to be a really unusual ruling by the city clerk saying, hey, no big deal. All right, come on now.
Well, you mentioned it it does have echoes of the Hennepin County Library director.
Remember that?
Yeah, that was too good.
That was so good. Where was he living? Like in outside
California.
Outside of Los Angeles, somewhere in the hills. Oh my God.
So he was living in Laurel Canyon. But I'm going to be able to do all my work for the library system in Hennepin County.
I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah Ellison represents North Minneapolis. He's on some extremely important committees, public safety, business, the financial stuff for North Minneapolis. He's not devoting full time because he's going to school. But when KSTP television broke this story, they asked him for an interview, and he said, this is not a big deal. I don't know why you're asking. And then this just outstanding quote, interview is not required. I will tell you, not a big deal. Interview is not required. So God bless you, KSTP, for doing that. But he is saying that the city clerk concluded that he's not breaking any rules with the current arrangement. But how do you perform your duties from Boston while you're going to school all day? You're not attending committee meetings. He's making nearly $110,000 a year and another $60,000
via the fellowship.
Yeah, on the fellowship. And additionally, he was supposed to renounce his employment, step away from any employment. Harvard requires that in order to get this fellowship. How do we have a city council member who is doing this? And so far, I haven't seen any kind of blowback. A couple of city council members, for sure, saying this is crazy that you think you can have another job and be a city council member. This is important work we're doing here. And you can't just attend meetings on Zoom. Just the city council members meetings, which are held, every 2 weeks.
So, doesn't this sound a little bit like, because you remind me, his term runs, I think, just through the end of this year.
It does.
So my guess is he's saying, I'm just going to skate. I'm going to get by, got a little extra money.
So resign.
I agree totally. But I think he's thinking, I'll just carry it forward. Yeah, sure. People can get mad all they want.
Yep.
But do other city council members have any authority or power to say this won't work?
Well, it's a really good question because the city council does have the power. I don't think the word is expel, but there is a way for them to have someone else take over his seat. This happened not too long ago when somebody quit to take a job, wasn't gonna run for re-election and quit early so that someone could come in and Councilmember Chowdhury and take the seat. So, yeah, there are avenues to address this. but they're not doing it. And so I think that the people need to put heat on, especially if you live in this district. It's something that I think I've never seen before. It's kind of like a no-show job where you got a job, but you don't have to really come to work.
It's a good gig if you can get it.
No kidding. I love it.
Star Tribune, my former newspaper, is shutting down the Minneapolis printing plant. It certainly would appear to me this is the first sign, maybe the second or third sign, actually, that inevitably the broadsheet newspaper, being able to hold it in your hands, not just read it online, is going to come to an end here very quickly, as it already has in a number of cities in the United States of America. So what is going on here?
The Minnesota Star Tribune has shut down its northeast Minneapolis printing facility. They said that they are printing so few papers, the paper copies that are delivered to people's doorways, that now it was only at 18% capacity. So it is being shipped out, farmed out to a printing facility, a Gannett printing facility in Des Moines, Iowa. And I guess
that should help deadlines.
They're moving. I don't know if you read this.
I did.
They're moving the deadlines back. So what are you going to do? Put them on a truck and drive them up? So the deadline, I believe, for the weekday edition is 5:15 in the afternoon.
You can't make this up.
For the Sunday edition, it's 4:15 in the afternoon. So that means you're not going to get baseball scores.
No.
Friday nights, you're not going to get your Friday night football
late breaking
score.
news, too.
You're not going to get it. Now, having said this, the trend in journalism, and this is happening all around the country, it's not because they're a liberal newspaper, they're being accused of this. Come on, people. I've seen this on social media for the last few days. See what happens? They're dying. They're not. This is one of the strongest
New York Times
newspapers in the United States.
The Times is flourishing.
Yeah, I think they're the seventh largest circulation, the Minnesota Star Tribune. It's a good newspaper. And so
it was better. I think it has been better, but I get your point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that it's a solid newspaper. It's seventh in circulation in the United States. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
So this is the way things are going, where some newspapers, including the Rocky Mountain News, I think the Seattle Post-Intelligencer, that's all. And you mentioned the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I mean, those are all online now, correct?
That's correct.
So you can't get a paper copy, and there are other newspapers
for sure.
that are 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And
that's the other way they go halfway.
Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday.
Correct.
But this is a problem because a lot of people don't read their news online. Still, this creates news deserts.
Me sad. Yeah.
News deserts all over the country. And
you know what's a bigger issue that we should talk about a different day when we have a little bit more time? In all honesty, a huge story, journalistically speaking, is the number of small newspapers that are either disappearing or they have literally like 1/10 of the staff writers that they used to. And what this means, of course, is there's a lot of stuff that literally in smaller towns,
I would love to talk about this sometime,
being covered at all when it comes to the old holding people accountable,
your
government
city
officials.
council.
They basically, you can do whatever you want because most of these newspapers do not have the resources to do any of that kind of reporting
Also,
anymore.
you're attending Bill and Mary Johnson's kid's wedding and putting pictures in the paper.
Correct.
You're going to the Friday night football games. I mean, it's really, really important.
It's a loss.
And so it's something that is worth talking about. And there are ways to try to slow that down that we can talk about someday. But I do believe, even though they say it's not coming anytime soon, that the Minnesota Star Tribune is probably headed in that direction.
I think it's inevitable.
Even though they've got circulation of several 100,000. So that's where we are right now.
All right, let's recap the Charlie Kirk, the horrendous Charlie Kirk tragedy. He's described basically, is it fair to say, as probably the preeminent right-wing youth activist in terms of connecting with youngsters. He's done very well with that organization of his. He was shot and killed today shortly after he began speaking at a campus event at Utah Valley University. You take it from there.
Shot while he was on his Prove Me Wrong tour. This was the first of, sounds like a dozen campuses he was going to attend where literally thousands of people showed up there. Thousands of people are showing up to see Charlie Kirk. Very popular. You mentioned very charismatic. Just a really bright light in American politics. You don't have to agree with him, but go on YouTube and look at him. He, in his Prove Me Wrong tour, he sits there on a chair, and you can come up to a mic and ask him a question. And he'll do it, and that's what was happening. He'll answer these, take all comers, debate anybody. Very courageous, somebody who, at the age of 31, had outsized influence. Many people say that it was he who was perhaps mostly responsible for the election of Donald Trump in his second term, in part because he energized young conservative voters who got out there, and, people thought, no way the young conservatives are going to come out for Trump, or young people are going to come out for Trump. And he actually pushed that up. So really, really a tragic story. We should add that the shooter is on the loose. The campus is a crime scene. It was a sniper who shot him from 200 yards away. We don't know anything else about it, except that they don't have the guy yet. And it's just another in a long series of mass shootings at schools and political violence that has hit Minnesota just as hard or harder than anywhere else. So what are we going to do about it, people? What are we going to do about it?
31 years old.
Yep.
I believe. If not,
Two young, very young children.
Brutal.
Yep.
Thanks for the flexibility today. Much appreciated. And for the insight, as always, we will probably have you back regular time next week. Thanks, man.
All right, man.
Pat Kessler, formerly of Channel 4 fame, kind enough to help us out as only he can do. Russo in about 15 minutes, back in just a couple minutes here in the Fan. From one of our favorite listeners and sources over the years, that Charlie Kirk was scheduled to appear during this tour, the Prove Me Wrong tour, at the University of Minneapolis. And Kessler has now indeed confirmed that he was due in here September 22 for what appears to be two events: a Prove Me Wrong table during the day at the U, and then a nighttime event at Northrop on the Carlson family stage. And Kessler notes that in the press release regarding this scheduled visit, there were going to be walk-through metal detectors at the evening event. So this was a stop. This was going to be a stop on the Charlie Kirk tour. Pretty interesting stuff there, don't you think? Cassie, you can get back on here real quick.
Yeah, so that was 12 days from now. So he's got a tour all around the country, and that would be 12 days from now, September 22nd. The Prove Me Wrong thing is what he was doing today, the Prove Me Wrong debate, where he sits on a chair, and he's got a mic set up for anybody who wants to come up and ask him a question, and then he'll debate him. He was going to do that in Minnesota, and then have a nighttime event that was ticketed and secured with security.
You mentioned another name regarding attempting to kind of use this same approach, right? Which is to attempt to actually have some sort of civil discourse or debate rather than I'm going to shout you down, or I'm going to tell you to shut up, or I'm not even going to listen to you, I'm going to stop you from going. Remind listeners about that.
Yeah, that's something that's also interesting, and I urge people to go, look at Charlie Kirk on YouTube and see how he does this. But Mehdi Hassan, the liberal broadcaster, is someone who does something similar. I think he calls it Jubilee. I can't remember the name of it. But what he does is put people in a circle around him, conservatives, young people, conservatives, and then he sets what's like a countdown clock, almost like one you'd see on a chess table when people are playing chess. Boom, he hits it. And then he'll debate somebody for 3 minutes. And it's fascinating to watch this kind of interaction, the same kind that Charlie Kirk did, and it's just to kind of interact with someone who you disagree with, which is Charlie was very, very controversial and said things that offended many people, but he was willing to stand up there and you could debate over and over and over again. And that's what it was. Thanks. So as we're looking, I mean, he was going to be here for sure.
Thanks for the bonus intel.
Okay.
Much appreciated.
Talk to you.
That's Kessie. Looking at a story out of the Desiree at Desiree.com, Desiree News, and apparently they had two reporters, Emma Pitts and Ava Terry, who were covering the rally. About 20 minutes after Kirk appeared at noon, he engaged in a Q&A with students. The reporters say they heard a gunshot from behind them, and it appeared Kirk was struck in the neck during a Q&A with the students. I'll never get the image out of my head, Pitts said. It looked like a fountain of blood came out of his neck. His body went limp, and then his eyes closed. Pitts and Terry said they grabbed each other and dove to the ground with the rest of the crowd. They said many of what they estimated was a crowd of 500 were hugging each other. I think it may have been bigger than that, maybe closer to 1,000. About 30 seconds, the crowd started to get up. One of the reporters saying, we sprinted behind his tent, ran into the nearest building, got under a desk, and called our editors. The reporters say they were about 5 rows away from Kirk when the shot happened, when the shooting took place. Pitts called it a terrible irony that the question Kirk was responding to at the time of the shooting was about mass shootings in America. The first question was if Kirk knew how many mass shooters were transgender. I think Kessler mentioned that to us as well. He said too many. A second question, the issue was asked. Before he could answer, he was shot. Pitts asked. A couple people have told me that the Desiree X handle, which kind of will include that newspaper's coverage, is a good place to go because they had reporters on the scene, and their Twitter handle is simply at Desiree, Deseret. So that might be a good place to get some on-the-ground reporting more than just speculation. The remarkable part of the story, of course, is that the shooter is at large and perhaps even escaped before they could do the sort of dragnet, or I should say the sort of set up the perimeter kind of thing, which is obviously what law enforcement likes to do in that situation, which may well mean the person is already potentially far away from that scene. Now, it could have gone another way where he attempted to hole up someplace and can be, they'll be able to get to him in that way. But that's the open question, in part because they thought they had the person who wasn't the person. We've talked about the still shots in the video of another individual who was first identified as the person responsible, who apparently had absolutely nothing to do with this shooting taking place. We're going to return to the toy department, probably get maybe back to this story between 6 and 6:30. Russo Radio was added to the list today regarding the breaking Minnesota wild news, a story not written by Russo, but by another very accomplished reporter, suggesting that that Kaprisov and his representation have already turned down the most lucrative, what would be the most lucrative contract ever offered to a National Hockey League player. What does that mean? Does it bode ill? Does that mean it's over? Is this just the first step, and the Wild actually know that they're going to have to come up and they intend to do it as Louis expects? We'll get into all those permutations when we return to the toy department with Russo Radio. I believe the Vikings report is first.
Time now for the Vikings report on The Fan, presented by Miller Lite. Vikings wide receiver Adam Thielen joins Dan Barrero next.
Before we say hi to Russo and Russo Radio, quick update on the Charlie Kirk story. Bo Mason, who is described as the commissioner of the Utah Department of Public Safety, insists there is still an active investigation for the person of interest who is still at large. And that is a direct contradiction to a social media post from the FBI director, Kash Patel, who said a suspect is now in custody. And the confusion might be that Mason confirms that the police did take someone into custody who turned out to not be the shooter. However, that person apparently was booked and accused of obstruction of justice. But in terms of the alleged, whoever they believe the shooter is, that person, according to the commissioner of the Utah Department of Public Safety, is indeed still at large. We'll have a chance at the top of the 6 o'clock hour to give you more updates on that story. Russo Radio is indeed with us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Thanks for the extra time. What's turned into a busy news day for you. Can I ask you, and maybe you've already confirmed this, and I'm not aware of it, but the report was an X report by NHL insider Frank Saravalli. So with your own reporting, can you confirm that you believe that his report is accurate, that indeed Kaprisov has turned down the deal in question, the 8 years, $128 million?
Yes, he definitely turned it down.
Okay. And next question, generally, when this stuff gets out, maybe one side or the other kind of wants it out. Mm-hmm. So do you think, which side do you think wants this out, or do you think that's a little bit more
neither. I have a pretty good sense of how he got it.
Okay.
And,
all right.
And it's neither side. For your very reason of what you just said, this doesn't make the Wild look good, and it certainly doesn't make Kaprizov look good with no context of why he turned it down.
Right.
And he's got to show up today. When this story broke, he was on the ice for captain's practice. So I can't even imagine the awkwardness of going in the locker room, and the way it is with hockey players, they all grab their phones, they all see it, and so I can't imagine Kirill wanted this out. Mm-hmm. But, I'm not going to get into I absolutely loathe when reporters publicly say who sources they think are for other reporters. Sure. We all have our sources. I have a feeling I know where Frank got the story, and I think that should be a concern for the Wild and Wild fans. Because if this is just getting out to other teams, it means that other stuff is going on here. So regardless, look, so this whole thing, I reported yesterday that Paul Theophanous was in Minnesota. Kirill got back from the U.S. Open, and that there was going to be a meeting with Bill Guerin. I wrote that they were meeting yesterday. Yep. We've been reporting that it would be around 8 years, 128 for a long time.
Yep.
For him to not turn this down, I know that a lot of people just want to think that this is just a negotiating tactic. I'd be big time concerned right now for a couple reasons. One, I get no indication from my sources that Kirill's camp in this meeting let the Wild know that they would entertain a short-term deal. So unless the Wild are going to start negotiating against themselves and upping what is already the richest contract in NHL history, where do you go from here? Are you going to offer him $20 million times 8, which actually they couldn't do? That's more than 20% of the 95.5 cap. But are you going to offer him 19.1? I mean, how much money gets it done? This contract's kicking in when he's 29. He's missed 41 games last year. He's not the best player in the league. The best player in the league who's about to sign an extension or could sign an extension with Edmonton, it sure sounds like from all the reporting out there that he's not even going to take $16 million because he wants that team to win over the course of his deal. So, the other thing, if you're the Wild, I mean, you keep on upping the price. Like at some point you got to what is important to Kirill here? Now they're going to hamstring themselves even more. So, this really all comes back to what Lou Nanne's been telling you all summer. Lou's been nervous about this because it just didn't make any sense to him why this type of contract wouldn't be done the second July 1. The longer you waited, the more concerned you are. The fact that Bill felt that he needed to meet with Kirill face to face told you that something was going on behind the scenes, and you just It also gives them more time to do intel and find out what teams, even though, as we all know, there's no tampering in the NHL, find out what teams could be coming after him, how much. If all of a sudden Kirill thinks that he could get $20 million next summer, this would cause his agent to convince him to not sign. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, it's obviously not over yet. things can change, but I definitely think this is Wild fans have been asking me all summer, like, when's it time to panic? I definitely think we're at that point now.
Louis has said he believes the magic number, and he has been consistent about this too, is 18 million. That's what they want, and that's what ultimately the Wild will be willing to give, even if that's not their intent. But do you have any reason to believe that's true, that that's the magic number?
Well, I mean, first of all, the magic number could only go up to max 19.1.
Right.
Sure. I mean, if you're Craig Leopold, offer him 18 then. But I just, at some point, Kirill's got to answer with what is really actually most important to him then. Right. Is it money or is it winning? Because if he's taking 18 million, which is 4 million more than a 4-time 50-goal scorer, 6-time 100-point scorer, and Hart Trophy winner and proven playoff performer Leon Draisaitl, then I don't know if winning is actually the most important thing to you. But we'll see. What my concern about 18 million, if you're the Wild, on an 8-year deal for a 29-year-old, for a guy coming off half a season, I just think it's a risk.
It is.
But I mean, and now we just all witnessed and dealt with 4 years of cap hell, and I don't care how much the cap keeps on going up. The higher and higher you start to give Kirill, it makes things more of a strain. And then if some of these kids do pop, you have to eventually pay them, and that's the hope that they're going to pop. So anyway,
well, let me ask you this way: is it possible? He's saying deep down, no, I do want to win. I'm just not convinced that this is the place here to win, even if I've mouthed all the right cliches when people have asked me directly.
Absolutely. I mean, look, there's a lot of speculation here. Obviously, as we all know, there's plenty of time, first of all, till training camp, plenty of time to the start of the season. Maybe he wasn't enamored with the off season. Maybe he does want to just wait. I mean, it sure feels like Connor McDavid, whose team went to the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row, is willing to wait. So that's absolutely possible. I mean, a lot of this is a little overreaction off an initial report, but I think what makes this such a huge story is we are talking the most money that's ever been offered any player in NHL history, and it somehow so far has not been good enough for Kirill. So you're right. I mean, maybe he isn't convinced. But we're putting words into Kirill's mouth, obviously, until he's speaking. So, we'll see. At some point we're going to get Kirill. Training camp is 8 days away. They do have their golf tournament Monday. A lot of times the Wild do allow media there. We'll see if they make Kirill available that day. So we'll see. But right now, obviously, there's a huge pressure on the Wild, because if Kirill is not willing to entertain a contract for a guy that missed half a season last year, there might come a point here where Billy, doesn't even want to let him see the ice to start this year, because really the one big leverage that the Wild would have in a trade for a pending UFA is this new CBA that's kicking in still allows a team that currently possesses Kirill to sign him for 8 years. So if you traded Kirill before the season started or early in the season, you're giving that next team essentially a potential of 9 years of control of Kirill Kaprisov. That could get you a king's ransom in return if Kirill is willing to extend there. So at some point, I think they got to let this calm down. But at some point, Billy is going to need to meet with Kirill in his camp again and just find out, all right, are we negotiating here? Yeah. Or are you not signing? And if you're not signing, all right, I just need a couple teams that you're willing to go to. And then I think it's for the best interest of the organization for Billy to at least start doing that due diligence on what he could potentially get if he has to trade Kirill.
So we are thinking this is the dawning of thinking the unthinkable, right?
Yeah,
that's what you're telling
absolutely.
me. Man.
Yeah, no, I mean the big thing is trying to figure out what does this all mean,
right.
and it's Billy's job to do that. I know they were blindsided yesterday. I mean, as well as I do that Billy's been extremely optimistic all summer long that he was going to sign this, because I think also in Billy's, one, he believed Kirill at the end of the year that he wanted to be here, but I think also I don't think that Billy would ever believe that somebody could turn down this type of money. So. So yeah, absolutely. This doesn't feel to me like more of a negotiating tactic.
Yeah.
Like, how much, like, you're being offered $16 million on an 8-year deal, a contract that is groundbreaking in the NHL. The Wild were going to break all sorts of their precedents on signing bonuses, and essentially what Kirill wanted, what he was going to get, which could still be the case. But for it to not be just all right, deal's done, it's a bit of a concern.
Yeah, you could say that for sure. So if we're gonna go there and think the unthinkable, then the next obvious and logical question is, what can you get? What could you get for Kaprizov?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't think there's any deal that Billy would do that you're not getting some sort of requisite player in return or players in return. You got to start to think of, like, if I'm Kirill, what type of teams you'd be interested in. There are a lot of teams that are going to be obviously interested in him. Like the Carolina Hurricanes will move heaven and earth to try to get him. The Chicago Blackhawks, teams like that. But I still think the Rangers are probably the team that he might be eyeballing. Shesterkin's there, Panarin's there. So what can you get? I mean, they have 226 first-round picks next summer. I know those usually don't move the needle for Billy, but to be able to re-sign Kirill, the Rangers would need to move money. So they got Lafreniere, they got Cooley, they got Schneider. I mean, there are really good players there that I think that you can get. I mean, nothing is going to be a requisite of Kirill Kaprizov, but there's those type of potential types of moves. So, I mean, that is way premature in getting the cart before the horse. But as I truly believe, and I did cover the Marian Gaborik situation where he turned down the 10-year, $80 million deal in 2008 and got hurt 5 games into the season. It was disastrous and set the franchise back like years. Like, if I'm Billy and I get the impression that Kirill is not changing his mind, I just think you got to get ahead of this. And I just think one of the biggest leverages that you have when you're trading a pending UFA is this change of collective bargaining agreement. Like, you are the only team in the league, as the Wild have said for a year, that can sign him to 8 years. Well, if you trade him, that other team can get 8 years. But if you trade him at the start of the year, that team gets 9 years. And I just think that is the type of thing that could actually get a really big return rather than waiting till the trade deadline, where you might have to move him. But look, Kirill's got all the power here. Kirill is also the boss. Like, if this is just a Paul Theophanous being Paul Theophanous, which, as you and I have talked before,
yep.
He's a hard agent to deal with. At some point, Kirill, who I'm sure isn't overly thrilled that this got out into the public eye today, like, Kirill might have to be the one that gets in Paul's head and decides to try to sign here. But I don't think Paul would act on this if Kirill didn't give him permission.
All right, so what's the? I mean, I assume from all this, it sounds like Guerin has got to want another meeting. Is that what's next? I mean, where does this go?
Yeah, I mean, look, Billy's not talking, so I don't know. I don't know exactly what was said in that meeting yesterday. I don't know if they basically said it's over or that. I do think that the Wild assume that they think they can get more, whether that's on the open market or for them. So look, I mean, training camp starts in 8 days. The season doesn't start for, almost a month. There's plenty of time here, but that's why the pressure is on the Wild now. Like, they've got to figure this out. What does Kirill want? And if that want is not to be in Minnesota, you're going to have to deal with that.
Is there any chance that you see a scenario in which a deal doesn't get done here, there's not necessarily resolution on it, and the Wild still start the season with Kaprizov in the lineup, and you let the thing play out? Is that at all possible, or do you think?
Absolutely, because again, he's got a no move, so he controls where he wants to go.
Right.
And then you got to make a trade, and who knows if those teams want to make a trade now? Who knows if those teams can make a trade now? This would not be a simple type of move, because again, like, any team that's acquiring him is probably doing so under the belief that they're going to be able to re-sign him. Not that you have to clear that money now, but you've got to be able to start to plan. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is not a simple type of trade.
Is it fair to say that if the I guess new factor is a desire for a shorter term deal, you would already know it?
I don't know, because Billy is radio silent on this, for the most part, and same thing. But all I can tell you is that as of now, I have gotten no indication that he wants a short-term deal, and that's from sources that are league wide, that have a pretty good sense of what's going on here. So, but like if I've been saying this all summer long on podcasts to you and print. Like, I think a short-term deal here is perfect for both sides.
I agree.
This contract comes in when he's 29. He just missed half a season. He's had injuries the last 3 years. I just think it's good for the Wild to give him, say it's just a 3-year extension. That gives him 4 years of control with the team. It brings him to 33. It allows the Wild to see him continue to play really, really well, but make sure that he's not, an injury risk. And from his perspective, it puts a little pressure on the Wild to build a winner around him and sort of say the clock is ticking. Let's build a contender around me and give the Wild one little chance here. It's kind of what we're hearing that Connor McDavid's thinking of doing in Edmonton. The only difference is that that's a team that's gone to the Cup final for 2 years in a row and win every year, seems to win a round or two at a minimum in the playoffs. Heck, they've 4 years in a row beaten LA in the first round. So, and still Connor wants to sign a short-term deal and put a little pressure on the Oilers. So, if that's what Connor wants to do for a team that just keeps on going to the final, I don't know why that wouldn't make sense for Kirill. But we'll see. I mean, again, a lot of this is total conjecture, based off an instant, story of him turning down this deal. But because it's such a groundbreaking contract, I think the Wild are shocked. And because of that, now they're trying to reassess how to deal with this.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I mean, how gobsmacked are you where we're at right now?
See, all summer worried that this was going to happen, but I just also, from my perspective, just from sanity, I never envision that you could actually have $128 million in front of you after missing half a year and say, I'm not taking it. So that's the only reason why I am surprised. Now, I knew that we would have a really good sense today or tomorrow on what was going to happen. This thing was going to get done today or tomorrow or not, because I knew the contract was about to be offered. And I knew Theo was in town and Kirill had just gotten back. It just made all the sense in the world that we were going to have some sort of determination. The fact that, it got out today definitely surprised me. And the fact that he said no, it shouldn't really surprise me, but it does, because that's real money. And so, I think it just will be really interesting what Kirill's reaction is to this. I cannot imagine that he thought this was going to get out in the public eye. But it did.
Text that came in more than 2 hours ago that I want to run by you. This is from texter Paul. I believe Kaprizov suffered permanent damage from the March 2023 incident, courtesy of Logan Stanley. Notice how no details are ever provided about the nature or extent of the injury. That means there was major damage. Kaprizov has been injury-prone ever since, has only played in 74% of the games ever since. He is damaged goods. Pretty strong wording there. What do you think?
Well, I mean, we've reported what the injury was. It was definitely a hamstring injury. Whether he's the same player or not, I mean, he's he had 140 goal season since then, and last year's injury, I can't. I'm not a doctor. I can't say for sure it stemmed from that, but it had nothing. It was not the same injury. So whether he's the damaged goods part or not, I'm not. I don't want to agree with, but I will concede, which I've said to you, is that he's had injuries.
He has,
and he just missed half a year. And whether the Logan Stanley thing has to do with this or not, the reality is that last year's injury was a serious injury that required surgery, and yet they still offered him the biggest contract in NHL history, and it apparently at this point isn't good enough for him. So that would be, that would be a concern.
How devastated would this organization be if it actually reaches a point where they have to follow the course you lay out? Because as you say, he's got control. You don't know which teams that he's interested in, are going to be interested in a return. And you're never going to get, I should say never, rarely, when you're giving up the star, do you get the right value back? It's got to be, the whole concept of this has to be inside that organization, just a devastating thought.
100%. I mean, I cannot imagine that, I cannot imagine that they thought that it would get this. By the way, just on Kaprizov, the damaged goods thing, I mean, he hit 46 goals and 96 points 2 years ago, a year since that injury. So, I mean, it feels like he rebounded at least from that.
And he started out like gangbuster. He was an MVP candidate, right?
I'm saying 2 years ago. Yeah, I'm saying 2 years ago.
True. That's
and
true.
then last year, he obviously he was a Hart Trophy. So I don't think he's damaged goods.
Right.
But he's definitely missed a bunch of time. I interrupted your question. But yeah, I mean, they're completely, I think, surprised.
Yeah, the level of devastation.
I think they're surprised. I mean, it's a, again, if he is not willing to sign there, it's embarrassing for the organization. I mean, the owner came out a couple of days, a week ago, and publicly at the Grand Casino Arena unveiling, basically told reporters that, it's close, and I think we're right there, and we're offering him this is going to be the biggest contract in the NHL ever, and it still so far has been no. So I think the hope by everybody is that we're all overreacting and that they're just continuing negotiation, but I still don't think that's a good thing. Like if the biggest contract in NHL history isn't good enough for you, like what I mean, so you offer him 16-5, 17, 17-5, 18, and finally you get it done, and then you want all of us to believe that winning is your priority. It just, I know it's all these players, it's their only career. They want to maximize their earnings. The agent's goals are to maximize earnings and move the needle for the next guy and all that stuff. But it just seems like, this is like, how much more can you really give them?
When you put together your next piece on this with possible reasons for why it's taken the turn that it apparently has, will you at least consider the theory offered up by Nick in St. Paul? Might Kaprizov be getting direct orders from Putin to get the hell out of hyper-woke, anti-Russia Minneapolis? I bet you this was not on your bingo card.
No, that was not, and I'm gonna no comment on that one.
It's so good. It's too good. I appreciate the extra time today. We'll obviously stay in touch, man. This is big again. I mean, it ain't gonna go away.
Yes. Soon. Yep, and hopefully by the next time we speak, I'll have a lot more information.
Excellent.
Maybe even the contract will be done, right? And we'll look at this laugh, but obviously this has been a quick turnaround. Not a lot of people are talking.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right, see ya.
Russo Radio bonus time today for reasons that should be quite obvious.
Man.
The Charlie Kirk story, obviously. He was shot and killed today. It would look very much like a targeted political assassination in Utah. I'm very confused about the alleged shooter. The governor of the state is now saying a person of interest is in custody. We thought previously that the person who's in custody was someone who is in custody because of a belief that they may have gotten in the way of finding the real bad guy, but not that was the shooter. So maybe it's semantics at this point. We'll see where this story goes. I don't believe most of the media outlets believe that the shooter responsible is in custody right now, but maybe the governor is purposefully using kind of oblique rhetoric. I want to read sections of a piece via Substack from a writer named Yasha Monk, attempting to, in no short order, put today's tragedy in some sort of context. Political violence descends over the land like a heavy curtain falling at the end of a play. A shooter wounded Donald Trump and killed an attendee of his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13, 2024. A shooter killed Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare in Midtown Manhattan, December 4, 2024, and was widely celebrated for this cowardly act. A shooter killed 2 attendees of a gala at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. on May 21, 2025. A shooter killed Melissa Hortman, a Minnesota state representative, and her husband, and wounded John Hoffman, a state senator, and his wife in the suburbs of Minneapolis on June 14, 2025. A shooter killed 2 children and injured about 20 others in an attack on a Catholic church in Minneapolis on August 27, 2025. And today, on September 10, 2025, a shooter killed the political commentator Charlie Kirk in an attack at Utah Valley University. David Foster Wallace was fond of telling a joke about fish and water. 2 young fish encounter an old fish. How's the water? The old fish asks. What the hell is water? One young fish asks the other once the old fish is out of hearing. Our most important freedoms are like water. Most people in the United States, for example, do not fully understand how remarkable it is that they can freely go about their lives, eating in ordinary restaurants and popping into a local coffee shop for their morning granola without fear of being kidnapped and ransomed and possibly murdered. But as any moderately rich person in Latin America can attest, that is a remarkable civilizational achievement, one that many countries sorely lack. Same goes for our ability to engage in political debate and stand up for our views without fear for life and limb. In many places and in many periods of America's own history, it was physically dangerous to say things that might be deeply unpopular among some of your fellow citizens. If you displeased the wrong person, you might have been arrested by the state or beaten up by a mob or assassinated by your political enemies. It has, over the past 50 years, been one of the remarkable achievements of liberal democracies to render that fear relatively remote. Though presidents have always had to be closely protected, and the risk that some individual madman might get it into their head to kill some famous public figure for some idiosyncratic reason could never fully be ruled out, most could speak their minds without any rational fear that they may be courting death. That is now changing. It is trite in these moments to call for political unity, but sometimes in response to a sufficiently horrible event, trite is right. Charlie Kirk had great gifts as a communicator. His political activism also earned him a lot of enemies. Those enemies will now be tempted to affix buts and howevers and at the same times to the wave of shock elicited by his assassination. Indeed, some Democrats already seem to have fallen into that trap, objecting to a Republican motion for the House of Representatives to observe a moment of silence in Kirk's honor. But this is a time to, quote, but me no buts, to close ranks across the ideological spectrum without any hint of hemming or hawing. Defenders of free speech often worry about the heckler's veto. Some protesters believe that the First Amendment gives them the right to disrupt the speech of those they do not like. But this is a misunderstanding of the logic of free expression. For if hecklers had the right to disrupt any speech, they would quickly come to be in control of what can and cannot be said. While everyone must be free to peacefully protest forms of expression they do not like, they do not have the right to stop such speech from taking place. I share those concerns over the heckler's veto, but the danger which now faces the American Republic is deeper still. As violence descends on the land and the price of engaging in political speech grows and grows, we are increasingly faced with something even scarier, both for the individual and for our political culture: the assassin's veto. Violence as a means of politics must always remain unacceptable in a democracy, whether it targets outspoken conservative podcasters or progressive politicians or senior judges or corporate executives. For all we stand to lose when the price of sharing one's ideas, right or wrong, left or right, radical or milquetoast, becomes incalculable. That's a lot to lose. That's Yasha Monk with a quick reaction, and I think a pretty good perspective on trying to, in short order, give us a sense of proportion about what's going on. The assassin's veto. That's what we seem to be heading closer and closer into, an era in which, once again, and by the way, it's not unprecedented. I'm old enough to have lived through the 60s and especially the horrific political season of 1968. So it's not like we've never been here or close to here before. But I'll read the quote I started the program with from a man named Jiddu Krishnamurti. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And that's what we got to think about and grapple with. Are we starting to become too well adjusted to a profound sickness that's going on here that now is saying, no, I understand violence is a step too far, but, and we're hearing that but more and more often. And that's what keeps the cycle going. That's what fuels the individuals who may have their own mental difficulties and challenges that make them more susceptible to going down this particular road. And we all lose. When we have to become well-adjusted to this sickness, it's a loss for each and every one of us, that's for sure. Let's get one more break in now. We'll get to a couple of texts and remind you of what we might have coming up the rest of the week and what is also coming up later tonight right here on The Fan.
Show Wrap is presented by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the bumper-to-bumper Show Wrap.
All right, so Guardsy tells me the plan tonight, this is X's and O's night after we're done. Is that correct?
It is Kevin O'Connell and Paul Allen.
So this is the interview I heard. You had it because this is your second chance to have heard it, right? Because
exactly.
This was good stuff that was I heard live as it took place the morning after the Vikings' big come from behind victory. By the way, I have great admiration and respect for the work ethic of your average coach. But come on, I mean, the idea that we're supposed to do handstands because he might not have slept, might have slept for 2 hours. Come on, I mean, there's a lot of jobs
Plenty
in
of
which
them.
people have even, let's face it, much more difficult, challenging schedules without all of the wonderful bells and whistles that folks do at TCO. So let's be careful to romanticize. They didn't even sleep. I mean, I can go down that road if you want from back in the day. I don't think anybody cares. It's the job. It's what you sign up to do. It's part of the reason you get the fame and fortune and glory that you get being, and again, eventually the slings and arrows, because there could be some problems when things don't go your way. But, come on. I enjoyed the hell out of the interview.
It was great.
It was excellent stuff.
It's always good.
It's always good, and you have a second shot to hear it. If you didn't hear it live, you have a chance to hear it tonight as soon as we are done.
Can you make a promise to me then?
Yes.
Because I don't know what we're going to do for Gopher Football Sunday on Sunday because...
What do you mean?
We have to do the same thing, essentially.
You're right, Cal Berkeley.
From California. So we're not sure exactly if I'm going to be able to do it live just because the plane might not land. Will you ode me on Sunday?
If you get it done?
Look,
Because you would have had no sleep. Literally.
I have to get something done, so I don't know if I'm going to record some stuff right after the game.
Can you record it on the plane? Are you on the team plane?
Yeah, so not really.
Not really a way to do that?
No.
That'd be the ideal, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Then you just get it done while the adrenaline's still going.
Bernsey and I are going to do something, I think, before we leave, and maybe I'll have Grimm do something. Maybe I'll have some player interviews, but I just want, at 9 o'clock, just make sure you tell everybody how hard that must have been for me to do.
For sure.
To get the show in.
I'll turn you into a martyr.
And then fly home.
There's no question about that.
I might not even be home by sermons. I don't know.
Game won't start Central Time Saturday night till 10. Is that true?
No, not quite. 9:30ish.
Okay.
9:30ish.
10 sounds a lot more dramatic.
It does.
And is there any chance it could be? Is it at all dependent on the game before it, or
I don't know.
Those kickoffs they just go when they're scheduled to go?
I don't know if we could get flexed or not. It's ESPN, I think, so it's possible.
Is that
they could
right?
Kick it. They call it a slide, 5 or 10 minutes.
I got about a 10% chance of staying awake through the whole thing, even if it's a good game. I'm teeth in the glass, man.
I think it's this week that Michigan State has an 11 o'clock Eastern, so 10 o'clock Central kick time. Michigan State in the Eastern time zone. They're playing a team out west. I can't remember who. 11 o'clock Eastern.
11 Eastern.
TV, baby.
That's they rule the roost.
PM, not AM.
No, PM.
PM.
That's
crazy.
We moved some things around because Glenn Mason, a Wednesday regular, is going to join us tomorrow. Mason Your Face tomorrow. We also originally had moved the inbox to today until the breaking news took place, and then we got some Russo stuff as well. So inbox is scheduled for tomorrow, and we think Sean Salisbury will be back in his regular time slot, 3:30 on Thursday as well. Is that correct?
That's my information.
And we'll obviously review Vikings-Bears with him and preview Vikings and Atlanta. They're bitter there. In fact, they got a new kicker, right? Because their kicker could have tied the game. The amazing thing is they had a great chance to actually win it on that last drive before they had to settle for the field goal that should have been made. I'm very confident we're going to go 2-0 for Mike Yo. How about you? Atlanta's
yes.
okay. I mean, Atlanta's not bad. Atlanta's probably better than the Bears. And the Bears, by the way, in all honesty, they shouldn't be terrible. They probably should be a little better than they were a year ago. I mean, they're not like a bottom. I don't think they're a bottom 3 team this year, but they do have a propensity to do what they did in that game when things get tough. So you got another national TV audience.
Yeah.
What a great chance to make us more than flyover country in the National Football League this year. Because I think we won some people over last week despite how awful we played through much of the game. Everybody loved the drama of the comeback. Everybody loved the drama of the kid making some plays, right? And now you've got Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels. No, Al Michaels is...
he does Amazon
now.
Thursday
That's right.
nights. Mike Tirico.
It's Tirico. And Chris Collinsworth will be blowing in. Any chance we're going to get him on?
No.
On Friday?
No.
No word.
Well, I'll say it this way. I haven't reached out.
Not yet, at least?
No, not yet, at least.
Maybe you should reconsider. Who's to say?
We're pretty full on Friday. Got Mike
by
Tice.
the way, let's remind folks, Gerbschmidt says he's done with us. I'm taking him at his word, so I have already gotten a commitment from Mike Tice, not to do predictions the whole season, but to do them and appear on our show this Friday at 3:30.
That's
great.
what
we're going to do. That'll give him a chance to promote his new podcast because he's trying to get back into the NFL scene again. You know, there was years where he almost seemed bored with it.
Yeah, he ebbs and flows.
He withdrew a little, and now I think he's trying to get back into it. I think he maybe got a little bit bored.
Well, I think he's probably annoyed with his kid having a bigger profile than him in the National Football League. I mean,
Nate
Tice is big time.
He's big. He's become very big.
We've gone back and forth with him 10 times to try to get him on. It hasn't worked out yet.
Very, very true, Davey. And we got to try to squeeze in a little bit of Lynx playoffs preview, right? See, they're down to one regular season game, I believe. I think they lost last night. That was their second to last. They got one more. And then the playoffs start, and suddenly it feels like there's a lot of other teams besides the Liberty that we might have to worry about.
That's right.
At least be threats.
That's right.
To what we are doing. Is our gal now in second place in the MVP speculation? Has she slipped to 2? The rumor is she has.
She's lost a little bit of steam.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that much steam.
My guess is he's going to be very close.
Well, we're flyover
with
country,
Vegas,
too.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, since we beat them by 57, they haven't lost. Right? I still don't think they've lost.
I don't know that to be true, but I know as when they...
Did you see the Caitlin Clark shot across the bow in the Lynx game?
No.
The Fever start out, I think it was like on a 10-0 run to start the game. Caitlin comes off the bench, looks over towards the Lynx bench, and does the timeout signal.
That's classic.
How good was Did you see the video?
I didn't.
Check out the video.
No.
It's very good. Now, I don't know if Reeve caught it. My guess is, though, someone will tell her, or she'll find out about it.
I'm guessing she already knows.
And hold it against her at some point. But yeah, it's Clark off the bench.
She's off the LA team now for the Olympics.
Seemingly taunting with the timeout. You guys got to call it timeout. It was beautiful. It was a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, though, she still can't play, right? She's not going to play in the postseason.
Nope, she's out.
Yeah. We really appreciate those watching today. We appreciate those listening today. And we'll get the whole thing started. A 3-hour tour tomorrow, right?
Yes, sir.
Because it's football season. That'll start tomorrow at 3 o'clock. But stay tuned next for the outstanding X's and O's. That's the head coach with the voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen. That is right around the corner here on The Fan.